Hello, everybody. This is JD again. Today, I'm going to talk to you about some things, very serious things. First, what would I do as president? This is my own personal, the way I would handle the situation. Congress just gave me authority to give the free rebels of Syria weapons and training. Well, according to what I understand, I don't know if this is fact yet, but according to what I understand, the Twin Towers, there was explosives used to bring the towers down, as well as the planes. And the explosives were of the same nature that was the explosives that was in the missiles that we gave to Al Qaeda to shoot the Russian helicopters down during their fight with Russia in Afghanistan. Same type of explosive. Why the American government is not putting out that fact, I don't know. But it shows a lack of security. And if anyone says, oh, yes, very easily, with a well-planned organization, like the attack on the Twin Towers was, they could have came and placed in the corners of every single floor on the Twin Towers that explosive. So that when the towers burned, it would set off the explosive in the corners of the floor inside, which would cause it to collapse onto the floor below it, causing the explosives to explode, causing that floor to collapse to the one below it and continue on until the floors were completely down. Is that impossible? Or did it really happen? Just think about that. Now, my thing is, how would I arm the free rebels of Syria? Free Syria rebels, whatever you want to call them. Not carte blanche. Oh, here's the weapons, here's the training, go after it. No. Because we're arming them to fight ISIS. Not to fight the Syrian government, not to fight the American nation, but to fight ISIS. Which is also a major problem with Syria, because ISIS will eventually take over Syria. So these weapons would be going to the Syrian rebels with a condition. And the condition is this: that the leader of the Syrian rebels to receive these weapons and the president and myself as president meet together. And I would explain to them what kind of Syrian patriot you guys are. You had a beautiful country, a wonderful country. And I show them some pictures of what they've done to some of those cities and say, you call that patriotism? You call that standing up for the people, serving the people? You got refugees throughout, completely around you. And now some in great danger because of you two fighting. Is that helping the people of Syria? I turn to the president and say, when you were a doctor, you didn't want to. And when you were forced to become president, you had plans for this country to be a great country. Unfortunately, for some reason, you have turned into some kind of forgotten those plans. Well, those plans can still be there. I remember those wishes you had for the country. The people had hope. And you want the same plans he wanted when he first became president. The exact same thing. You two need to get together. Find out what your differences are. Work them out and stand up against ISIS to protect and save Syria and the Syrian people. That's what this is all about. That's what patriotism is. Not fighting for one group or another group, but for all. Now I'm going to leave you to talk it out, work it out, see what you need to do. And then from there, we'll all sit down and see how we can handle this threat, ISIS, which is not just a threat to Syria, but the world. But it's a major threat, because believe me, Syria is in grave danger. ISIS will take you completely over. if given the chance, and kill many of your citizens. That's what I tell them. Of course, the Ferguson incident that happened, where the young man was shot as president, I wouldn't send Eric Holder in there. I would have went there myself. Ooh, you might be... No. I might be in danger sitting right here. But I would have went there. And I would have asked the people to tell me what's wrong. Oh yeah, tell me. I would tell them what I perceived to be wrong. That a young man, when he was surrendering, whether or not he was a criminal or not, but when he was surrendering to the police, actually stopped, knelt down, raised his hands, and then was shot. Now I find that, if that is the fact, something is wrong, and it needs to be addressed. And I want you all to tell me what you feel is wrong. Because the only way we can fix it is for you to tell me what it is that had you so upset. And I would talk to the police commissioner and tell him publicly, if this man knelt down, raised his hands, and was shot, there is no reason for that force to be used. You had a very inept police officer on the street with a very deadly weapon. If the police officer was in fear of his life, the guy knelt down, raised his hand, he had the option of keeping him there, keeping his distance, calling for backup, and handcuffing him and putting him in a car and taking him away. Or he had the option of walking up, have the guy put his arms down and handcuff him, put him in the car, and take him away. That's the options. Once an individual, criminal, no matter who they are, the deadliest in the world, once they kneel down and raise their hand, there is no option for deadly force at that point. And believe me, people, all of you, I respect the police officer and his job. Because every single day when they put that uniform on and they walk out of their home, they have just walked into a war zone. Just like the soldiers in Afghanistan. Every single day, there could be that guy around the corner that's going to shoot them. And they got to live with that. I've been to war zones. I know what it's like. I do have that respect for the police officer, and I will always have that respect. But I will tell you, there are police officers walking on this street today that shouldn't be allowed to even own a gun, period. Never mind carrying it and using deadly force to enforce the law. Deadly force only gives us violence. People will fight in this country if you try to use deadly force against the people. They will fight you, and they will always fight you. Ferguson is a very good example. If that police officer handcuffed or called for backup and then handcuffed, would there been any incident like there is in Ferguson? That's the question that needs to be answered. And then, why did that police officer use deadly force? And no matter how, what for, if that man was knelt down and raised his hand, even though that police officer may be terribly afraid, there was no self-defense there, and therefore that's involuntary manslaughter at the least. And no one in the United States of America is above the law. I repeat, no one. Now I have something else. I've talked to several people who are very upset about our government. When the federal government aligns itself with the rich, the major corporations, and organizations like the UN and New World Order. That is not a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That is not a government to serve in the United States of America. Has our federal government grown so large, so uncaring, that it aligns itself with the rich, aligns itself with major corporations, mega corporations, multinational corporations, and entities like the New World Order, the World Bank, things like that? If it has, there's no place in the United States for that government. There's no room for that government. There's no room in our government for the Republican or Democrat or any other political party, Libertarian, Greenpeace, you name it, any political party. There is no room. They're special interest groups. The only room our Congress, both the House and the Senate, has is representatives of the people, for the people. Nothing else. When a rich man is considered more than the poorest person in this country, let's rephrase that. When a rich individual is considered more than a newborn child, then something is wrong. Never mind when a corporation, I don't care what the corporation is considered more so than the poorest individual on the street. Then there's no room in the United States of America for that country, that government. There's no room in this country for that government. When organizations like the World Bank, New World Order, and UN is of the most importance over that young lady with that child in her arm who is on federal assistance, cannot even pay to feed those two, is more important than those two, that child and that woman. They might not even be getting assistance. That single mother who's working, let's use that one, is working to feed her children. And the federal government's more concerned about the World Bank. There's no room in the United States for that government. That government does not belong in the United States. Bottom line is every single individual by the federal government must be seen as the most important part of the government, the very most important, above all else. That American citizen, whether he's newborn, whether it's the oldest, whether it's the poorest or the richest, the not smartest and the smartest, doesn't matter. They all are to be equal. Doesn't matter what degree of brown they are. See, I'm beige. That's a form of brown. Or African American. That's brown still. I'm sorry. Oriental. Oh, that's still a form of brown. American Indian. They call it Redskin, but it's still a form of brown. It doesn't matter what degree your tan is. You all are to be considered equal in the eyes of the government. Above all else. It doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. The federal government needs to see you as You and nothing more. It doesn't matter how you prefer your sexual genders. It doesn't matter. Federal government is to see you as an equal to any other. The federal government is not allowed to tell you how you shall pray, how you shall speak, how you shall individually within your house live. The federal government is not allowed to tell you who shall be your friends and who shall not. But you are allowed to tell the federal government how it is to serve you. And if the president cannot understand that, then he doesn't need to sit in that seat. Now, leadership. Leadership is something that is far more difficult than anything else in the world. Because it carries one thing with it: responsibility. When you become a leader of a nation like the United States, you at that point accept all responsibility of the whole country. Doesn't matter what Congress does. It doesn't matter what the Supreme Court does. It doesn't matter what an individual does. It doesn't matter about what Ferguson did. You are responsible for it. It's up to you to see to it is corrected. That's the acceptance. That's why in Ferguson I would have been there. Because I am responsible to the American people for what happened. Even though I wasn't standing in Ferguson when that police officer. But as President of the United States, as leader of this nation, I have a responsibility to each and every one of those citizens. And that responsibility needs to be kept. I don't have a responsibility to France. I don't have a responsibility to England. I don't have a responsibility to Egypt, Iraq. I have a responsibility to the American people. Through treaties made, I have that responsibility to those other nations. And that I will respect and upheld. But above all else, as president, I will have my responsibility to each and every American citizen, equally and completely. No one is any less important, and no one is any more important. Now, the most important thing. I have my card here. If you look at it, it's from vote. It says 2012 is crossed out. There's a reason for that. In 2012, I was gonna, and then I decided not to. So I crossed it out, and then down at the bottom, I wrote 16 in where 12 was, and it comes out pretty nice. I even like it because the reason to cross out is it says vote 2012, and the 12 is crossed out because we, as American people, failed in that election. Every single one of us failed in the 2012 election. And it says your voice counts. Then it says check out James D. Criveau, open parentheses, JD, close parentheses. JD is a man who serves you, the people. Help to protect our country's Constitution. Then it says 2016 is the time all must vote. This nation needs you. That's very important. You people who did not vote, understand by not voting, you help to elect whoever wins the election. Your voice is not heard, but you have cast a ballot towards the person who won the election. You want to say, no, that's not so. Oh, yes, it is. Because you see, for that person to win, he'd have to have a ballot to counter your vote if you were going to vote against him. Plus, he had to have a vote to outnumber your vote if you were going to vote against him. So, actuality, person who win the election, if you would have voted, would have needed 2 more votes to counter your 1 vote. Now, you don't understand how important, and I'm trying to tell you this. Look at Scotland. Almost 90% of the people voted yes or no to separate from England. Well, they voted no, so they're going to stay with England. But almost 90%. For me to win the 2016 election, I will need a turnout greater than that. But if you get out and vote, that turnout will be there. And we, not I, we will win the 2016 presidential election. Understand, I'm not going to Washington, D.C. because I want to be president. I'm going to Washington, D.C. because your voice needs to be heard. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to ensure that we have a government that serves the people, you. I'm going to Washington, D.C. so that at the end of my terms, I can say to you, I place the federal government in your hands now. It is your country. It is your constitution. It is your government. Ensure all serves you. And never let it be stolen from you ever again by such entities as political parties, the rich to buy, major corporations, or entities like the World Bank, the UN, New World Order. The one world economy is the greatest destruction for the United States. The individual nations with their individual economies is what is needed in the world. Not a competing economy, but working together individual economies and let them develop at their own rate. The only way to have a one world economy is to break down and lower the American economy. And that cannot be done and does not serve the American people. It may serve the rich, it serves the mega corporations, but it doesn't serve the American people. And the purpose of the federal government, only purpose of the federal government, is to serve the American people. That's their job. Now, finally, I get my Constitution out now. Now, if you remember, I said in my card, help to protect the country's Constitution. There's something very important in there, and I hope someday you all get a copy of this book. You can get it free from the Heritage Foundation. All you got to do is go to theheritagefoundation.com and request a copy of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. They'll be glad to send you a free copy in which you don't need to do nothing but to read it. I'm going to read to you the most important part, I feel, of our Constitution. The reason for the Constitution. Why it's in existence. Why the government was set up the way it was. The very purpose of the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, that's right, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, there's the first promise, to form a more perfect unit. Establish justice, a second promise made by the Constitution. Ensure domestic tranquility, a third promise. Provide for the common defense. Fourth, promote the general welfare, fifth promise. And to secure the blessings of liberty, the sixth promise. To ourselves and our posterior, our future. Seventh promise. 7 promises made. Do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. That's the preamble, word for word. And in that, there are 7 promises. And that's the only reason for the Constitution of the United States and the federal government. The 7 promises. Those are promises. Those aren't rights. Promises made. And they must be kept. To me, a promise is a word given that must, above all else, be kept to the ultimate of your ability. And those 7 promises must be kept to the ultimate of our federal government's ability. In other words, to serve you, the people. And then at the end, you have the amendments. And most of the amendments are protecting your rights. From the time you were born, from the very instant you take your first breath and become a resident of that state, at that point on, this Constitution is there to protect you. Doesn't matter what your heritage is. It doesn't matter who your parents are. It doesn't matter where they came from, what they did. But from the instant you take your first breath to the time you take your last breath, this Constitution is there to serve you and protect you with rights and promises. Oh, that's what JD's all about. Getting your voice to Washington, D.C. to ensure that the promises are kept, your rights are protected, and to care about each and every one of you. To see you all as equals, no matter if you're the richest man in the world or the newborn, last child born, newest born baby. Doesn't matter whether you're male or female. It doesn't matter the complexion that you have. It doesn't matter the color of your eyes. It doesn't matter whether you have hair on your head or you don't. It doesn't matter the color of your hair. See? It doesn't matter the JD. And JD is real. But what matters is to ensure that the government aligns itself with you, the people. Not the rich, not the mega corporations, not the world entities. In other words, to serve you, the American people, and nothing else. Remember, we are not here to serve the government. The government is here to serve the people. My motto, half written by Kennedy, is ask not what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. Yet, remember, the people are not servants of the federal government, but the federal government is the servant of the people and no others. That's JD. So, check me out. See what I'm about. See how I feel about foreign affairs. See how I feel about domestic problems. See how I feel about separation of church and state. See how I feel about defending your rights. See how I feel about the First Amendment. Oh, the First Amendment has a lot to it, a very lot. Each of the amendments, I went through them. See how I feel about you and your birthright. See how I feel how you matter and what I mean by we shall go to Washington, not just me. I thank you for your time. This is JD. Check me out. Then you decide. And if you decide, hey, wait a minute, this is the man, this is the guy, this is the person I want to be the president, I want to stand for me, then help me. When you decide you want me to stand for you, when you say, I want this man to represent me, I want this man because I know he will protect me when it comes to the federal government, or he'll die trying. Then I want you to help me. And together we, yes, we can fix our government. And together we, yes, we can win this election in 2016. But that's the only way. Thank you. This is JD. Think about the stuff I say here. It is very important to you. Understand, it's not me that's going to lose when the election is over. Because if I lose, I'm not going to change any. I'm still going to be me. If I win, I got a very important job to see to it that I keep my word to you, the people. Take on the responsibility of this nation. And together, we shall succeed. So you see, winning is going to be the tough part. After that, the job is going to be tough. But we can do it. I have confidence in you. I know I can do my job. I know what leadership is, I know what responsibility is, and I know how to fix things. I know I can do my job. You need to do yours. Our country needs you. Our country needs you more than it ever had in its past over 200 years of history to keep it free. Thank you. This is JD. Remember, don't vote Democrat, don't vote Republican, vote American. You all have a nice day.